So so today we'll just be focusing on three things: how to polish your app, how to think about front-end security, and how to get your project deployed so it's actually portfolio ready. The goal today is just to take what you've already built and make it look more professional, more secure, and ready to show to your potential employers. So let's try and understand what does a great project really look like. So a great project isn't just something that you build. It's polished and professional and portfolio ready. And one of the qualities that has been used to determine whether a project is really great or not is visual presentation, meaning that the user interface should be clean, intuitive, and responsive, because first impressions really do matter. Second, code quality. This is where your code should be readable, organized, and easy to maintain. And then finally, the last and most important pillar of a project is documentation. A clear README allows others to understand and run your project easily. So that means, and also here are some items that would help you make sure that your project is actually portfolio ready. So you want consistent styling, so your colors, spacing, and typography that usually involves font styles all feel intentional. You want your app to be mobile responsive, so it works well across different screen sizes, and you want clean execution, which means no console errors or warnings in the final build. And you also want standardized codes, which is usually handled by external libraries like Prettier or ESLint, so that your project is easier to maintain. And then finally, you want comprehensive documentation, especially a strong README that helps someone understand and run your project quickly. A lot of developers build good apps, but the ones that stand out the most are the ones that feels finished. Now, when I say finished, I mean a clean. Uh, when I say finished, I mean a really comprehensive README, standardized code, and consistent styling of all across. So let's try to go over what it means to have a really strong README, because your README file is often the first thing someone sees before they even open your code. Try to think of it as the front door to your project. It should be welcoming, informative, and easy to follow. So, for example, some of those it could include like a live demo link so that people can see the working app immediately, or if you intend to run this app locally, you could add screenshots or short gifs so that they can understand the product at a glance, and provide clear installation steps that are simple enough to copy paste and run without any confusion. The easier you make it for someone to understand your project, the more professional and complete it actually feels. Now let's try to go over security, because like it or not, front end developers are often like the first their line of defense in web applications. React gives you a helpful baseline because it automatically escapes content render in JSX in simpler terms. So whenever you would render value inside the curly braces. React treats them as text instead of raw HTML, which often helps protect against common cross-site scripting attacks. And but there is one exception here, that is dangerously set inner HTML. As the name suggests, this bypasses React's normal protections. So there isn't any case, you should never use it with like unvalidated user input. If raw HTML is injected directly, that could expose users to cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. Also, remember that validation on the front end improves user experience, but it is not real security. The server must still validate everything it receives, regardless of what checks happen in the client. So another way that security could be implemented is by input sanitation. And another thing is that you should always uh, yeah, so you should still be careful about any user provided content when it comes to input sanitization. The safest habit is to just treat all user input as untrusted and make sure anything important is validated again on the server. And also, as you work on the front end side of the applications, you will be working with APIs a lot. Uh, you should never expose API secrets in the code itself. If you put an API key in the browser, it's essentially public. It's like leaving the front door open in a rather unsafe neighborhood. So it's the best practice would be to store your secrets in a server. And so instead of your React app talking directly to the third party API with the key, the better flow would be is to connect the React app to your backend and then your backend to the third party API. So that way the key stays hidden from the browser. And during development, tools like White let you manage configuration with an .env local file. You could add that to your Git node, define values there, and access them to while importing such properties. But an important warning here is that anything exposed to the front end bundle is not a true secret. So environment variables in the client are for configuration, but not for protecting sensitive credentials. So the takeaway is simple. If the browser can see it, it is not really a secret. Another client-side security habit is being careful about where you store data. For example, storing user data on local storage is convenient, but it is not a secure place for sensitive data like the user information because any application running JavaScript on the page can read it. So, as a safer practice, try to store any user data or tokens in your application's memory, like in React state. That way, when the user logs out or closes the tab, the token itself it's gone. The another point is about error messages. Your users should see messages that are helpful but generic. So, for example, a good error message would be login failed, check in your credentials. That's a good message. But what you want to avoid is exposing internal implementation details like maybe specified API keys, stack traces, or any errors that could be coming from the server, because that creates both a poor user experience and a potential security risk. So the general rule is simple: protect sensitive data, never reveal more than the user or than what the user actually needs to know. And so these are the main front-end security habits I want you to leave with. Trust with no user input has to be ever trusted. Never treat client-side checks as real security. Try to keep secrets of your front end, and just be careful with token storage and show safe user friendly messages. So once you connect all these ideas, connect directly to what makes an app portfolio ready, which is of course polished UI, clean code, and a security first mindset. And I just wanted to take this moment to congratulate every single one of you who has been through 11 weeks of learning what React is, how can you build applications with it. So you've really learned you've gone from learning what React is to actually building front end applications, and that's something that you should be genuinely proud of. And from once this court is over, the next step is learning how the backend works, and that is where you would be working with Node.js and Express and learn not just how to manage API keys more securely, but also you can get a much deeper dive into what real validation looks like and how you can design services on the backend itself. So I just wanted to take this moment to congratulate every single one of you, and if and also I'll take this moment to answer any questions you have so far about the presentation, or anything that you may not have entirely understood about around this cohort. Security, it was difficult to understand how it goes on. Well, that's completely normal. Security can feel abstract at first. So the main thing I want you to remember is that not every technical detail about how security works. Just a few simple rules. So first, never trust user input. Second, anything in the front end that can be seen by the browser. So don't put any secrets like API keys or anything like that. And the third rule is that validation helps the user, but real security still happens on the server. So a very simple way to think about security is this: the front end is about guiding the users, but the backend or the server is where those rules are actually enforced. So if anything else felt like a lot, that is okay. Uh, as long as you remember the three rules that I have put forward, that's already more than enough. Yes, probably there will. Yes, you will definitely learn more about security, and that's where actually it will start to feel more concrete, because you will see where validation really happens. how authentication works and how secrets are actual secrets like API keys are protected in practice. So for now, it's completely enough to understand security at a high level and know that you will revisit these ideas in a much more practical way later. All right. Are there any more questions? Okay. If there are no more questions, I'm just gonna show you guys how what it's like to deploy your to-do application and onto a hosting platform like Vercel. Of course, this part is completely optional, but I feel like if you do it, you will actually have one project that could be that is deployed on a platform that can be immediately shown to your future employers, and it's always worth having one particular project that you can show at any time of the day. So, uh, if you, I'm just gonna go along and remember this entire session is recorded. So, if you feel stuck at any point, feel free to revisit it. I'm just gonna be going over the instructions that have been put up in the platform. So let's just go ahead and get this started. Okay. It's just there's somewhere. Okay. This will be the platform that has been recommended to uh, deploy your to-do list app on. In my case, I will be using the the React example that I have been building on from the past few weeks. Just give me one moment. Okay. So one thing that I should mention is that before you try go ahead and try to like deploy an application, make sure that all your changes have been merged onto the main branch, because that is one thing that Vercel would definitely check, is that you always want to make sure that all your code have been pushed onto the main branch, because that's the branch that the hosting platform will look like when it builds and deploys your app. So let's go through the steps. And before you even deploy it, make sure that you take some time and draft a README that's very easy to read. I'm just gonna show my README real quick. So this is just a sample DB that has been created for this particular project only. This is something that I had built. You don't really have to do all of this. I just wanted to make sure that there is a good enough sample that helps you understand what kind of project is actually expected. This is just a sample, so you don't need to copy every single section exactly. So let's just go through the instructions real quick. This is a long, long page. All right, so for the part one, you obviously have to apply some stylings. Of course, you can choose to go any way about this. You could either use CSS modules, you could use CSS in JavaScript, or you could go ahead and implement some CSS frameworks like Tailwind and Bootstrap. But the thing about frameworks is that you have to make sure that those dependencies have been installed first before you try to implement them. And after you apply all the particular stylings as per these guidelines, you you should be able to design an application that looks really clean and professional. Of course, there is no one correct way to there's no one particular color that would be great. You can feel free to choose a color scheme that works for you. And you also want to make sure that you also go through all these steps. I'm just going to be going towards what deploying actually does. So once you have checked off all the things that you need to do from part three, here you're just going to be ensuring that your application builds successfully. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this command npm run build. And also before you do that, you have to make sure that you are in the correct folder that contains everything. So once you run this command, it should create a build, and the correct way to know if the build has been done is this folder called dist will come up. And then if you want to review your production build, one of the ways to do that is just run npm run preview. So this opens up the production build that has been wrapped up by the by White itself. And once you're able to verify that everything looks the same, that is where you would go ahead and just push all your changes to the main branch, and make sure that before you run these scripts, you have to make sure that your package.json has the correct scripts as well. And then once you have prepared a production build, you can just go ahead and create this JSON file in the same directory as package.json. So that way, Vercel would know how to rewrite those requests in production itself. So let's add that real quick. And all we have to do is just paste this. Also want to push all the changes as well. No. So when it's just when you run a production build, once you've done that, you always want to make sure that it looks the same as the one that you've been working towards. So this is just one way to just take a preview at what your application would look like in a production environment. And then you want to make sure that your current example has all the changes pushed that involves the current instructions that we've just added. So once that is done, you could go ahead and sign up to Vercel. Now, I already have an existing account and I've linked it to my GitHub account as well. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna jump into creating new projects. So if you haven't imported your Git profile, all the projects should be popping up right here. Now, let's try and import our Git repository, which is this Git example 2. And you can definitely skip this. And then and then just configure the project settings. So let's hope that the framework preset is white. And then for the build command, you just want to make sure that and make sure to add all these build commands that has been given here. Uh, and in this particular section, that is the environment variables, you can add your API keys and addresses that you have been using to work with with the backend service for the login and logout. And then once you have entered everything, you can go ahead and just click on deploy. Now, this will definitely take some time, but if everything goes well, then this will definitely work. And just like that, you have a live application that can be accessed from not just my system, but from your system as well. We can definitely check and see how this application looks. Keep in mind that all screens work differently, so I didn't take too much time to, add in responsive queries. So if it looks a little different, then please forgive me for that. And with that, that's how you would go ahead and deploy your application onto Vercel. And I'll take this moment to answer any questions that you may have about the overall process in general.